Imagine you just woke up in a world where all the chocolate you can eat is pink. That beautiful, glowy ruby chocolate instantly creates sparkles in your eyes. And before you know it, your mouth is watering. You grab the pink chocolate between your hands and finally take a bite out of this piece of art. It tastes good, but it doesn't really taste like chocolate. There's a widespread debate on whether pink chocolate is the fourth type of chocolate or not. We have dark, white, milk chocolate, and now ruby? Not exactly, but don't worry, we'll understand why. Ruby chocolate appeared on the market in 2017 through a Swiss-Belgian company called Berry Callebaut. How they make chocolate pink is a manufacturing secret, but they did open up a little about the process. You might not know this, but it takes a while before you can get from a cocoa bean to a chocolate bar. After harvesting the cocoa pods, one has to dry and ferment the cocoa beans. This process of fermentation is usually what gives the chocolate its rich and complex flavor. Then, you have to roast the beans, which is when they'll acquire the dark chocolate color we're used to. After grinding the beans into cacao nibs, the last part of the process involves melting the nibs into a type of chocolate sauce that will be mixed with sugar, butter, milk, or whatever you wish to mix it with. Some beans are naturally purplish, and they change into a darker color during the fermentation process. But to make ruby chocolate, manufacturers have to halt the fermentation somewhere in the middle. That's how they preserve some of their original purpleness, which added with a few other secret ingredients can become pink. If this video is stimulating your taste buds, you can go outside to the nearest convenience store and look for a ruby Kit Kat. You'll probably notice that pink chocolate has a similar texture to white chocolate, but it has a slightly sour and fruity taste. That's probably due to the fermentation process we just talked about. In case you can't find a pink Kit Kat outside, there's another recipe that gets close enough to the original ruby chocolate taste. According to chocolate expert Angus Kennedy, you can chew on a piece of white chocolate. Add some raspberries and a little piece of milk chocolate. That's more or less what a ruby chocolate bar will taste like. Oh, fun fact, there's also a wide debate on whether white chocolate is actually chocolate or not. Scientists argue that we can't call it white chocolate because it doesn't have any cocoa beans in it. White chocolate is simple cocoa butter mixed with sugar and has some vanilla to add to the flavor. Other studies say that what is legally required to call something chocolate is a simple percentage of cocoa fat. And if that is indeed the rule, well, then white chocolate could be called chocolate, no problem. Anyways, why did pink chocolate get so popular? The thing is that we don't eat only with our mouths. Eating involves all of our senses. The size, shape, color, and surface texture all play an important part in how appealing a food might be to us. The smell will also determine a lot of our eating desires. Crazy as it might seem, the smell of something can already activate your taste buds. But primarily, we eat with our eyes. I mean, look at this beautiful pink chocolate ganache. And this ruby chocolate mousse. It's aesthetically pleasing and looks like you're about to eat one of the colors of the rainbow. Yum! Eating with our eyes has been a reality for us humans since the beginning of time. Let's take our primate ancestors as an example. Science speculates that primates might have developed a trichromatic vision to spot the nutritious and colorful fruits among the dark green canopy. I'm betting that even looking at all these delicious images of food is making you crave the things we're talking about. But our brains aren't all that smart when it comes to eating, and we're easily tricked. For example, if you drink a pink liquid that tastes like a banana, it will take a while for your brain to process it correctly, as your normal expectation is for the drink to taste like strawberry. Another study shows how our brain perceives roughness as a quality of healthy eating, even when that's not exactly the case. If I gave you a piece of rough brownies and soft ones and asked you to eat the ones with fewer calories, you'd probably choose the rougher ones. This study from the Journal of Consumer Research shows that foods with rough textures feel heartier and healthier, even if they have the same nutritional value as softer versions. That's why we eat granola bars and trail mixes thinking we are eating super healthy when they are very high in calories. Even today, we are masters at eating with our eyes. Social media stimulates the first thing you do once you order food is to take a picture of it. The prettier the plating and the food itself, the more likes a person is likely to get, and the more a restaurant owner can sell dinner platters. On the bright side, it seems like cuisines all over the world are getting more and more inventive. Have you ever heard of a rainbow bagel? The internet was obsessed with this bagel a few years ago, and rightly so. The dough of this pastry looks more like Play-Doh than something edible. But it's a spectacle for the eye and extremely popular amongst young children and adults alike. It's like eating sunshine, one of its admirers says. The brighter the colors, the better in this case. And what about edible everyday items like a hairbrush? I swear this is a cake inside. As much as it might feel weird to eat a hairbrush cake, it's also very cool. This new social media trend is pretty surprising and filled with odd edible items such as edible Polaroid cameras, edible hand soaps, edible water bottles, edible handbags. Really, the list goes on. Acai bowls are also pretty popular today in the social media world. That luscious shade of bright purple topped with perfect rows of granola, pumpkin seeds, and oats makes my mouth water just by looking at it. But cuisine is getting a little bit exaggerated to grasp the attention of consumers around the world. I'm thinking here about Burger King's Quintuple Burger. It's 5 Whopper patties, 5 slices of cheese, and 5 rows of bacon. You get the picture. It's over 2,000 calories in just one burger, which is more or less the nutritional amount an average person needs to consume per day. It's certainly shocking when you look at it. Imagine eating it. Still, our need for food to be aesthetically pleasing has its downsides. In supermarkets, we tend to choose those fruits and vegetables that we consider perfect. But this means that a lot of the ugly food gets thrown in the trash because nobody wants to buy them. Sure, we eat with our eyes, but it's important to be aware that just because a fruit came twisted or weird-looking, that doesn't mean it won't meet our nutrition needs. A Singaporean project called Ugly Food is trying to make a difference. People can buy blemished food in their online grocery stores. According to the company, consumers are invited to increase their acceptability threshold. Another project that's changing the meaning of the quote, "we eat with our eyes," are restaurants that offer blindfolded dinners. Since 1999, restaurant owners have offered their clients the experience of eating without using their sight. Naturally, this experience heightens the other senses, like taste and smell. A 2002 study also shows that those that eat blindfolded can eat up to 22% less than those that see what they're eating. According to this study, blindfolded people would get satisfied much sooner than those that weren't. This would literally mean that our eyes are bigger than our stomach. Meaning that if the food looks appealing to our eyes, we could be driven to take much more than we normally manage to eat. Good food should never go to waste, and Kit Kat manufacturers stick to this rule. It was spotted once that messed up Kit Kats ended up in a large blue bin. Then, they go through a reworking process. The candy is first combined with cocoa liqueur. Then, some sugar is added there, and in the end, the manufacturer gets the paste that's used to glue the waffles inside each Kit Kat bar. So the Kit Kat filling is made of messed up Kit Kats. Rhubarb stalks are safe to eat, while its leaves are kinda toxic because of the oxalic acid they contain. This fact is pretty boring, but what if I tell you you can literally hear it grow? This guy grows so fast that the buds crack open, and you can hear a specific sound. Some people even claim they hear rhubarbs creaking constantly during the growing season. If you think corn kernels are only yellow, prepare to be surprised. There's rainbow corn. It's not the gift of nature, but rather selective breeding. This type of corn is called glass gem corn for a reason. First off, the kernel indeed looks like it's made of glass, and as for gems, the jewel-colored ears do look like precious stones. Each kernel is unique. This kind of corn was selected over many years by Carl Barnes, a part Cherokee farmer and breeder from Oklahoma. People who made popcorn with this corn claim the popcorn is colorful too. Worcestershire sauce wasn't invented deliberately. Back in the 1830s, Lord Sandys came back home to England from India. India is famous for its delicacies, but Lord Sandys especially loved one sauce. He went to a drugstore where he asked two chemists, John Lee and William Perrins, to prepare something similar for him. They prepared a whole batch and intended to sell it, but the veggie and fish odor was so unpleasant that they decided to keep the batch in the cellar for some time. Soon after, they forgot about those barrels with sauce. Obviously, the sauce got fermented. The chemists only rediscovered the batch 2 years later. These guys must have been adventurous eaters since they tried it, and it was mellow. Hey, look at those French fries. Yeah, some of them have a few unusual black spots on them. If you're a fast food lover, you've probably seen it at least once. It's not anything bad, and it doesn't mean these fries are not suitable for eating. These are just so-called pockets of sugar. The reason why they appear is simple. If the French fries are stored in the refrigerator, the starch they contain turns into sugar. When the cook gets them out of the fridge and starts deep frying, the high temperature makes the sugar on the outside cook before the inside is fully cooked. So basically, these are just extra caramelized spots. The downside here is that those sugars can leave a burnt taste. Carrots have their sugar trick too. They're way sweeter in winter. Thing is, carrots developed a kind of physiological response to stop ice crystal formations. Those formations can damage the carrot, and increasing the sugar content helps prevent it. If you ever see duck sauce, just a piece of information for you. It has nothing to do with ducks. It's really sweet to taste, and the main ingredient is fruit stones. Plum, peaches, and apricots provide the best stones. To spice it all up, it's necessary to add sugar, vinegar, ginger, and chili peppers. Sweetness and spices are mixed together, making this sauce a perfect condiment for all sorts of spring rolls and many other fried and salty dishes. It's hard to believe it, but the cheese puffs we all love used to be rubbish in the 1930s. One day, Edward Wilson noticed that some corn got squeezed out of one of the machines at a factory that produced flaked food for animals and formed ribbons. Those ribbons seemed curious, so Edward decided to take them home and season them. He also noticed that the puffy corn hardened if it was exposed to air. The experiment turned out to be a success, so it was later developed into a world-famous snack. What's in common between peanut butter and an engagement ring? Both of them contain diamonds. A scientist from Germany learned how to turn peanut butter into diamonds. He extracted the oxygen from CO2. He got the carbon and then put it under intense pressure. In the end, he got real diamonds. Sounds easy, but it's not. He took ordinary peanut butter and pressurized it with powerful machinery. The pressure was 1.3 million times higher than the air around us. Then he heated it all to temperatures that can be found 500 miles below the Earth's surface. Technically, the scientist simulated the way crystalline structures are formed in the Earth's lower mantle. So if you already grabbed a jar of PB to turn it into diamonds, grab some Jell-O and bread too. A sandwich is the only thing you can do without special equipment. One more tricky question for y'all. What contains more protein, a steak or broccoli? The answer is broccoli. There's a teeny tiny detail though. It contains more protein per calorie than meat. So 100 calories of broccoli will give you more protein than 100 calories of meat. Another bonus is that broccoli doesn't have trans fats and cholesterol. The last riddle here, promise. So, what's more energizing, an apple or a cup of coffee? Sorry, coffee fans, apples are as good as your favorite drink. So the next time you feel you're low on energy, try to grab an apple instead of a double espresso. Apples are rich in minerals, vitamin C, carbohydrates, and fiber. So they will give you as much energy as coffee can give, probably even more. People still don't know exactly how potato chips were invented, but one legend claims they were invented in 1853 by a chef at a luxurious Saratoga Springs, New York restaurant. People loved French fries there, but one customer wasn't satisfied with their quality and complained they were too thick. George Crumb, the chef of that restaurant, had to cook thinner French fries. The picky client wasn't satisfied once again. The chef got really mad at him, no surprise. It was the third time he cooked the same dish for that client, so he deliberately made those fries paper thin. The batches were so thin that it was impossible to eat them with cutlery. Surprisingly, the finicky eater finally loved the dish. The recipe soon went viral and potato chips appeared in all the American grocery stores. The only thing that changed, it was intended as a hot dish but turned into a fast snack in the end. Fancy a fruit salad? If you ever want to grow all the ingredients for it, you don't really need separate trees. All you need is a multi-grafted tree. It can have different varieties of the same fruit or completely different types of fruits. It's possible to grow up to 6 different fruits on one tree. The Caesar salad has nothing to do with ancient Rome and Julius Caesar. This salad is Mexican, and its story started in Tijuana. It was invented by accident by restaurateur-chef Cesar Cardini. One day, he simply ran out of food, but it was in the middle of a large celebration. All he could do was throw a bunch of random ingredients and present them as a salad. The unique dish had a huge success and spread all over the world. There's one thing that's not unique about this salad today. Many supermarkets offer their version of Caesar salad with a white mayo-based dressing. Originally, the dressing was yellow and it had a whole range of ingredients. To cook it, you need to mix minced garlic, anchovies, and raw egg first. Then you'll need to add some olive oil. The last part requires lime juice, Worcestershire sauce, Dijon mustard, and sure thing, salt and pepper to taste. Voila! Even if you think sprouted garlic isn't suitable for eating, it's not really so. The only problem you may have is that sprouted garlic tastes harsher. So you don't want to add it to salads, including the original Caesar salad. But I guess you wouldn't even notice its harshness if you add it while cooking.
You decide to try a new coffee brand that has a nice golden packing and proudly says 100% coffee on it. But it tastes nothing like your favorite drink. Don't blame yourself for being the worst barista on the planet. The substance you just purchased might just not be the real thing at all. It's so expensive because of how it's made. Coffee plants can't be hurried to grow. Depending on the type of coffee, it takes a coffee tree about 3 to 5 years to start bearing fruit. Coffee farming is a people-powered industry, from planting to processing. Coffee farms are often huge, so you need many workers to plant all those new trees. And it takes about 2,000 hand-picked Arabica coffee cherries to make a single roasted pound of coffee. If you want to get the best out of the variety of options, don't fall for labels saying 100% pure coffee. If it doesn't say 100% Arabica, they must have mixed in cheaper Robusta beans, which can make your coffee taste bitter. Check the roasted on date for freshness, not the best by date. When a brand offers a gazillion artificial flavors, it's a sign they're not confident in their beans' quality. A good roaster might have a few unique flavors, but not a whole buffet.
In Japan, you'll find wasabi all over the place, but chances are, if you've tried it outside of that country, you've had a fake. True wasabi doesn't come from your regular horseradish plant. It's more like a root vegetable made from the underground stem of the wasabi plant. This stem is grated to make the real wasabi paste. Growing wasabi plants isn't easy as they only like clear, running stream beds in Japan's mountain river valleys. That's why the real thing is so pricey. Fake wasabi is usually a mix of regular European horseradish disguised as the real deal. You'll find it in squeezable tubes, little packets, or as a powder you mix with water. These products often contain just a tiny bit of the real stuff, usually 1 to 3%. It helps cut costs a lot. If you want to check if you've got real wasabi, check the texture. If it's super smooth and pasty, you're likely dealing with pureed horseradish. But if it's got a gritty feel, like it was freshly grated, it's more likely the real deal. Authentic wasabi is always served fresh because its flavor and zinginess vanish quickly once it's grated. The only Parmesan that you can really call this way gotta come from the Emilia-Romagna region in Italy, especially Parma. or a certain part of Lombardy. There are only about 300 certified dairies in that area that can make genuine Parmigiano Reggiano. And they've got to age it for at least a year to get those super important umami flavor crystals going. Some of it ages for up to 100 months or longer. The authentic Parmesan wheels are marked with a DOP stamp, Denominazione di Origine Protetta, basically saying it's the real deal from the right place. Italian Parmesan is easy to find in most stores, but there are other options that can be cheaper. That's because American-made Parmesan only needs to be aged for 10 months, and some graded blends can have up to 4% fillers, like rice flour or wood pulp cellulose. The legit Parmigiano Reggiano cheese only has 3 ingredients, and one of them is milk from cows raised in the same region. Plus, they've got some strict rules about what those cows can't eat, like fermented grain.
Maple syrup fans, this one's for you. Did you know that to produce your favorite pancake topping, artisans have to tap maple trees that can grow more than 5 stories tall, extract sap, and then boil it down? It's an age-old craft, passed down through generations, from indigenous peoples to modern-day syrup makers. But many of the bottles with sticky sweet syrup inside have nothing to do with that process. Pancake syrup, or table syrup, is a mix of corn syrup, caramel coloring, and flavoring. If you see these ingredients on the label, it's a telltale sign you aren't dealing with the real maple syrup. The consistency of your purchase is another giveaway. The authentic maple syrup is runny. That's why you can pour it easily. Pancake syrup is thicker and stickier. The price can't always give away a fake in this case. It can be affordable even for the real product.
Another item that often gets counterfeited is designer bags. To make sure you're buying the real thing, give that purse a good feel. If it's supposed to be leather, it better feel and smell like it. Counterfeiters often skimp on quality materials. Check out the zippers, buttons, or any metal parts. They should feel solid, not lightweight or cheap. And of course, no chipping allowed. Look closely at the seams. Sloppy or uneven stitching is a big red flag. The inner lining is another giveaway. Feel it and make sure it matches the brand's quality. Pay attention to the brand logo. Authentic ones are all about the details. The same goes for the label inside the bag. Get familiar with how it should look so you can spot any slip-ups. Check the number and placement of pockets. Each model has its own design. If it doesn't match up, something's fishy. Shady dealings with extra virgin olive oil date back to ancient Rome. Back then, tricksters would sell low-quality oil or mixes under the fancy Evo label. Nowadays, most legit extra virgin olive oil comes from Spain, Italy, or Greece. They produce it by squishing ripe olives without heating or chemicals. Good Evo might cost you around $10 for a 17-ounce bottle. Fraudsters have gone undercover amidst real producers, making it tough to spot the fakes. But you have more chances of finding the real thing if you avoid blend or light varieties on the label. Check the pressed-on date. It should be less than a year old since the oil loses its fruity vibe after a couple of years. If there's a harvest date and details like the producer's name or olive type, it's likely legit. Some high-quality oils note the free fatty acidity, FFA, level, which is a good sign. Don't automatically trust fancy packaging or high prices. Even an expensive bottle can be past its use-by date. If you like to cook, cinnamon, mint, nutmeg, sage, and other spices must always be in your kitchen cabinet. But you can't be sure you've got the real thing unless you're prepared to pay a hefty price for them. When you break it down by the pound, some of them, like vanilla and saffron, are as pricey as precious metals like silver and gold. And where there's value, there's a dark underbelly of fraud. This multi-billion-dollar industry is a playground for tricksters looking to make a quick buck.
If you don't want to add something fake to your meals, the best you can do is buy the spices whole and grind them yourself. If possible, try to find a retailer that sells spices in bulk. You'll be able to see them yourself, and you won't miss the aroma of real cinnamon or oregano. If you're planning to buy a designer watch, look closely for any blunders or defects on the watch. Designer watches are usually made with high-quality standards, so things like chipped paint, scratches, or spelling errors are rare. Also, check if the clasp works and if the watch keeps accurate time. Genuine designer watches have precise, clear engraving created by skilled watchmakers. If the lettering looks messy or hard to read, chances are it's a fake. Designer watches are made with valuable metals and intricate parts, so they should feel a bit heavier than they look. If a watch feels surprisingly light, it might be fake. Real luxurious watches have unique serial numbers that should be precisely laser-etched, not sloppily printed. Make sure these numbers match the case and warranty numbers. Simply search online or contact the manufacturer's customer service to confirm you've got the real thing.
So you're watching your favorite cooking show when suddenly the star chef adds a pinch of salt to some jam that's supposed to go into a dessert. You pick up the phone to call and complain, but right then the chef explains. It turns out that adding salt to fruit is a common thing in different cuisines across the world. Like in Mexico, they like to spice up mango and citrus fruits with salt and chili powder. You can try mango with a shrimp taste in the Philippines and salted watermelon in the southern states. So, how does it work? Well, let's say you're eating a raw mango sprinkled with salt. With the first bite, you notice the salty flavor, and the sweet fruity taste is then slightly delayed. It feels as juicy and amazing as ever. It's most likely because salt affects the sweet taste receptor for sugar, and then really magic happens on a molecular level. One study even found that we have more sugar detectors in our taste cells than scientists previously thought. One of those detectors must direct sugar to a sweet taste cell when it gets in contact with salt. You can try and put salt on any fruit you like, but the effect will be different. Salt can make sweeter fruits like cherries and strawberries even sweeter and balance the flavor of grapefruit, pineapple, and watermelon. Just take a ripe fruit and slice it the regular way and sprinkle the pieces with salt. Large, flaked sea salt might taste more intense, plus it looks more beautiful. After 10 minutes, your gourmet dessert will be ready. So, you need to chop up a heap of iceberg lettuce, but that tough core in the middle doesn't want to leave. Just hold the lettuce head in both hands with the core end down and slam it against a cutting board or some other solid surface, not your brother. Now you should be able to pull the core right out of the bottom and slice the rest of the lettuce without a problem. The next time you take butter out of the fridge and struggle to spread it because, it's hard as a rock, reach for your grater. With its help, you'll easily flake off tiny pieces of butter that will melt instantly on a warm toast. You can also spread them much easier on cold bread without putting your sandwich in the microwave or waiting for a while to soften the butter. Professional bakers approve of this tip and have been using it for a long time. When you're frying something, you first heat the pan and then put the food on it, right? Well, this logic won't work if you want to make your bacon crispy. On a hot pan, the meat will cook before the fat can melt out of it. Your bacon will be too fatty and rubbery. So you gotta lay the strips on a cold pan and then turn on medium-low heat. The fat will render out of the meat, and the final result will be super yummy and crispy. Have you ever tried boiling pasta in a frying pan? I know it sounds a bit weird, but it can actually help you save a lot of time, water, and energy. Instead of filling a huge pot with water and waiting for it to boil, put your pasta in a frying pan and cover it with cold water and add some salt to it. Your pasta will be cooking while the water is getting to the boiling point, so it'll be ready much faster than normal. And the water that's left in the pan will make an excellent base for a sauce because it's filled with starch. Mix it with pesto, tomato sauce, and garlic butter. It tastes like it's straight out of a gourmet restaurant. Now, the secret to cooking the most delicious and fluffy mashed potatoes is to dry them before you mash them. After boiling, you can either put them in a pot and leave them over low heat on the stovetop, or keep them in a baking sheet in a low oven. Then add melted butter that will coat the starch in the potatoes, and only then slowly add milk. Now your mashed potatoes will have the best possible structure and flavor. If you've shed enough tears over onions when trying to slice them, this one is a must-try for you. Peel the onions, cut them in half, and leave them in a fridge in a bowl of iced water for half an hour before you start cooking. The reason behind your tears is the sulfur that onions take from the soil while growing up. When you damage its cells, the acids contact the enzymes that start a whole bunch of reactions and release a chemical that makes your eyes water. Freezing the onion can weaken that chemical. To minimize it even more, only use a sharp knife to slice onions. This way, you'll do less damage to its cells. It's much easier to peel an avocado if you freeze it first. Just put it in the fridge as it is, give it some time, and then take it out and hold it under warm running water. Now you can peel it easily after you make a couple of crisscross incisions. The best way to keep herbs fresh and juicy is to store them like flowers. If you don't have the right size vase or vase, take a mason jar or a water glass and fill it with an inch of water. Now put the herbs inside as you would do to your roses. For parsley and cilantro, cover the jar with a plastic bag and store the bouquet in the fridge. Basil loves sunlight, so you better leave it uncovered on the counter. If you've made too much sauce or have some leftovers in a can that doesn't seem to be enough for anything, you can save it from the trash can. Pour the sauce into an ice cube tray and keep it in the freezer. Now, if you need to spice up a meal, you can always add a couple of sauce cubes to it. Plus, as a bonus, which is redundant, the sauce will last longer this way than it would in the fridge. Do your meatballs always turn out to be perfectly the same shape and size? Then skip this one. But if you're like me, just use an ice cream scoop to get the right amount of your minced meat mix. Try saying that 5 times. The balls will be the ideal shape and your fingers won't get sticky. The easiest and probably the most beautiful way to slice a mango is to turn it into a hedgehog. Wash the mango under running water. Don't squeeze it while doing it. Now put it straight up on a cutting board and cut it into 3 pieces from the top downwards. Just leave that flat pit in the middle piece. There isn't much you can do with it anyway. Now your mango will have 2 cute cheeks. I mean, its fattest parts. Next, make crosswise and lengthwise cut in the mango cheeks. Leave some even distance between the incisions and don't go all the way through the skin. Now press on the back side of the mango until the flesh pokes out. Does it look like something to you? Yep, a hedgehog. Hence the name of this slicing method. The final step will be to slice off the mango cubes into a bowl. Then eat. Now this one has all the potential to become your new breakfast favorite. You can cook an omelet in a mug. Take a large microwave-safe mug and coat the inside of it with olive oil or spray it with cooking spray. Add 2 eggs and 1 tablespoon of milk and mix them with a fork. Now add salt and pepper and any cheese, veggies, and herbs you like. Put it in the microwave on high for 30 seconds. Take it out, stir it with a fork, and then put it back for another 30 seconds. And voila! Your breakfast is served. Oh, be sure to use another mug for your coffee. Otherwise, you get eggs in your coffee, and nobody has a recipe for that.
This creature first appeared on our planet around 1 billion years ago. It thrives in damp environments and can survive pretty much anywhere. It might be in your basement as we speak. I think you've already guessed I'm talking about mold here. It's a type of fungus that spreads through tiny particles moving through the air. These spores are like the seeds of a plant, although they're much smaller. Sometimes they cling onto clothes or animal fur and travel long distances unnoticed. They can survive even in some unfriendly environments and start growing when they land somewhere with enough water, food, and oxygen. Mold comes in all colors of the rainbow, and each color stands for a certain type of mold. You can usually find red or orange mold outdoors. The pink variety likes to reside in bathrooms on shampoo and soap residues. Black and green mold are the types you're most likely to meet in your house. Unlike plants that use photosynthesis, mold grows on materials it can digest. Even one tiny mold spore is powerful enough to harm several people. But there are over 100,000 different types of mold in the world, and not all of them are dangerous to you. Ugh, you just noticed something green on your sandwich, but only a small part of it is infected, so maybe you can just cut it off. Nope, it won't work out. The tiny greenish spots you see are on the surface, and you can spot them with the naked eye, but there's more hiding inside the bread. But if it was 1 second too late and you've bitten into the bright green patch of mold, don't rush to the bathroom to scrub your tongue with antibacterial soap. You've probably eaten mold before without even knowing about it. It easily grows on soft porous foods like bread, fruit, and vegetables. So, consuming just a bit of it is okay, as long as you have a strong immune system. You'll digest it like any normal food. If you feel sick after consuming it, that's most likely because mold tastes weird, and not because there's some vicious substance spreading through your body. So, the best you can do if you spot mold on your bread is not to risk your health and throw away the entire loaf. Mold likes to settle in cooked leftovers like meat, poultry, casseroles, grain, pasta, cottage and cream cheese, yogurt, and sour cream. It's easier for mold to penetrate softer food, so it also loves fruits and vegetables like strawberries, cucumbers, peaches, and tomatoes. Jams and jellies are another easy target for mold, as it thrives in sweet and sugary foods. Yikes! Mold isn't always the bad guy ruining your lunch. You've got to thank it for that exquisite taste of blue cheeses, like Gorgonzola, Roquefort, and Blue. Camembert and Brie wouldn't be so delicious without the white mold on their surface. Cheese is 99.99% milk, and its makers grow mold either inside or outside the cheese, depending on its sort. But if you find mold on a cheese that shouldn't have it, like cheddar, Parmesan, or Swiss, it means the molds added to any cheese to give it taste have come into contact with oxygen and started reproducing and breaking down fats and proteins uncontrollably. You should cut off the affected part carefully with a knife without touching the mold. The rest of the cheese is still good to eat. It would be impossible to produce soy sauce without fermenting soybeans, and it happens thanks to a certain type of fungi. Salami fans should appreciate mold for the unique flavor it gives to the meat, and for preventing it from drying out too quickly. Mold has also saved millions of lives. Penicillium mold helped achieve a real breakthrough in medical science, as it naturally produces the well-known penicillin, accidentally discovered by Scottish researcher Alexander Fleming in 1928. Some types of mold can also help you in the garden as a great mulch. Some gardening fans spend years trying to grow leaf mold to use for compost. They believe it improves soil quality. To prevent mold from overtaking your lunch, keep the food covered with plastic wrap in the fridge. Don't keep leftovers of perishable foods in their cans. Put them in airtight containers instead. Keep track of what you store in the fridge. Leftovers shouldn't be there for longer than 3 to 4 days. Keep your fridge clean. Only use fresh and clean dishcloths, towels, sponges, and mops. Once you notice a musty smell, it means mold is about to settle in your kitchen, and its plan is to contaminate your food. But what if mold spreads in the damp areas of your house? You might not notice any consequences for your health immediately, but they might resurface in the long term. As mold grows, its spores and fragments can produce irritants in the air inside your house. Depending on how sensitive you are, you might notice it's becoming hard to breathe. And since mold slowly but surely breaks materials in your house, there will be more dust and other particles in the air. When you try to get rid of the bad mold in your house, you might accidentally touch it without any protection. It won't take your life, but don't let it sit on your hands. First off, clean your hands well with antibacterial soap. Clean between your fingers and the back of each hand thoroughly, and also scrub underneath the nails. If you can't reach some spores, use a toothpick. Then, clean your hands with a strong sanitizer. The final step will be to wash your hands with liquid soap under running water. Again, don't miss the areas between your fingers and under your nails. Don't touch your face until your hands are perfectly clean. You don't want to accidentally inhale those spores. You should also take off the clothes you were wearing when you came into contact with mold and wash it immediately. It's impossible to mold-proof your home, but you can make it resistant to that mean intruder. Inspect your house and find the problem areas. It could be a flood in your basement, a water stain on the ceiling, or a window that's always covered with condensation. Fix those problems and install proper ventilation in the house. AC units and dehumidifiers will help. Open a window while cooking or showering to keep the moisture outside. Make sure your roof gutters are regularly cleaned and fixed. Invest in a moisture meter and monitor the humidity inside. Ideally, it should be between 30 and 60%. Always remove wet clothes from the washing machine unless you want to share your garments with mold. The best you can do is hang them to dry outside in fresh air and wait while they get completely dry before putting them in your wardrobe. Empty and air out drawers and closets you rarely open every now and then. Never leave the bathroom floor and walls wet after you take a shower. And clean your house regularly. Then nasty mold won't have a chance. The moist soil in your houseplants is every mold's dream. To save them, don't overwater them and let fresh air circulate in the room where your plants live. If you see mold is starting to grow on your plants, mix 2 tablespoons of white vinegar and some water in a spray bottle and apply the mix to your plants. You can also do the same thing using a tablespoon of baking soda. There's a common myth that bleach can help you get rid of mold. In reality, it will only help you remove the visible part, but the spores will survive and keep spreading. Depending on what you do for a living, you may also meet mold in your workplace. Poorly ventilated spaces, greenhouses, farms, and even bookstores and libraries are in the risk zone here. Paper contains cellulose, and it's a perfect food source for some types of mold. Old books that have been stored in a humid room for many years could be hiding millions of mold spores. The rules to protect yourself in a workspace are pretty much the same as for your house. Clean it regularly, dry damp surfaces, and if it's impossible, wear protective gloves when you have to come into contact with mold.
So, Alexander the Great, one of the most famous figures in ancient history, was apparently a big fan of one summer treat beloved by many to this day. Marco Polo, the Italian explorer and writer, is said to have brought back from Asia a recipe resembling sorbet, a frozen dessert made by mixing sugar-sweetened water with different types of flavoring. This dessert, which was later named cream ice, was a frequent treat at the court of Charles I of England in the 17th century. In France, it was Catherine de' Medici who introduced the beloved frozen dessert soon after she married Henry II. The frozen treat became available for the general public somewhere in the 1660s, when a Sicilian man blended milk, cream, butter, and eggs at Café Procope, the first known café in Paris. Thomas Jefferson himself had a preferred recipe for ice cream, which took a staggering 18 steps to complete. Ice cream has become so important in popular culture that it even has its own laws and regulations to accompany it, to make sure ice cream is always produced with its certain levels of quality. Not every frozen dessert you see out there is, in fact, ice cream. To be commercialized under this name, the Icy Delight needs to contain a minimum of 10% dairy milk fat and mustn't weigh less than 4.5 pounds per gallon. Genuine ice cream doesn't actually need to be too fluffy. In technical terms, that means it must have no more than 100% overrun. So, to get to that specific texture we've all come to know and love, the ice cream base needs to be sufficiently whipped, but only to a certain percentage. Specifically, for every gallon of ice cream base, the end products must not exceed 2 gallons after whipping. Your favorite summer dessert can yet again be broken down into many other subcategories, like reduced fat ice cream, low-fat ice cream, or non-fat ice cream, based on, what do you think, fat percentage. To have a solid idea of what you're ordering each time, it's best to look at the nutritional information of each product. One interesting type of frozen dessert is gelato. Although it literally translates to ice cream in Italian, There are differences between the two again, based on regulations on milk fat content. Gelato normally has less milk fat than ice cream officially should have, but since it has a low overrun, about 20 to 30%, the end result is still dense and rich in texture. The Italians also mention that gelato shouldn't have less than 3.5% of fat. If this doesn't seem complicated enough, the French also bring their own twist to the dessert. French ice cream, also known as frozen custard, apart from the standard ingredients, also needs to have eggs added to the mixture, with no less than 1.4% egg yolk. You've probably mislabeled many other food items, like say raspberries, as they're actually a member of the rose family, along with cherries, apricots, plums, pears, apples, peaches, or blackberries. They are added to this category based on their flowers. They bloom in 5 equal petals arranged around a central core. Bananas are considered berries, while strawberries aren't since they belong to the same rose family. We also share about 50% of our DNA with bananas, which explains why both bananas and certain attractive people can both have appeal. Another common misconception: white chocolate isn't actually chocolate since it doesn't contain any chocolate solids. It's made only from a mixture of sugar, milk products, vanilla, lecithin, and cocoa butter. Parents all over the world don't try to convince their kids to eat broccoli for no reason. On a calorie-by-calorie basis, it turns out that broccoli has nearly as much protein in it as a steak. Now, I'm not convinced parents actually know that, but given the low fat content, broccoli has many other health benefits as opposed to meat. We now see it as the mandatory companion for fries, but at some point in time, ketchup was actually considered to have healing properties. In the 1880s, a doctor based in Ohio indicated that tomatoes could help treat digestive issues, publishing a ketchup-like formula that was later transformed into a pill. Hey, you want to have a pill with those fries? Speaking of French fries, it turns out one of the most popular side dishes in the world isn't actually French. Potatoes served this way actually originated in Belgium, but they're called that because of how they're cut, and maybe also because the name Brussels sprouts was already taken. I'm almost certain there's a jar of peanut butter somewhere in your cupboard, but I'll bet you didn't know how valuable it actually was, and I'm not talking about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Studies have shown that Americans go through enough peanut butter to coat the floor of the Grand Canyon each year. Just to be a bit more precise here, that's about 500 million pounds. Hey, if somebody did that on YouTube, I'd watch. The pink coloring of salmon isn't always like that by default. Wild salmon is pink due to a large amount of shrimp they consume natively. Farm-raised salmon, however, is generally white, so producers need to add plant-based pigments to get that light pink hue. Carrots weren't originally orange either. The red-yellow tint we are now familiar with comes from a genetic mutation of the well-known vegetable that occurred somewhere in the 16th century. Carrots were initially white or purple. Just like you add ketchup to the side of fries, you're most likely having a dab of wasabi with every plate of sushi. Well, it's most certainly dyed horseradish. The Japanese alternative to horseradish is quite expensive. That's why 99% of restaurants in the US actually use regular horseradish instead. You may see them packed together in the supermarket, but red, green, and yellow peppers aren't actually the same vegetable. You'd need different types of seeds to be able to grow them individually, as they're each their own type of plant species. Did you know 1 in 4 hazelnuts ends up in a Nutella jar? The creamy spread is so popular that scientists are looking into ways to grow hazelnuts in labs to counteract the global shortage. That's something to think about when you ask for an extra topping. Sure, there's an expiration date on each bottle of water, but the water itself doesn't actually expire. The date mentioned there is, in fact, for the bottle itself, since the plastic can eventually leak harmful substances into the water. Ever wondered why airplane food sometimes tastes bland? The chef may not always be to blame. The altitude you're flying at has some effects on your body chemistry, making you taste things differently. You've added it to a salad at least once, but you may be surprised to know that cilantro and coriander are not in fact the same thing. Coriander is what the dried seeds are called, while the leaves and the stems go by cilantro. So now you know. For all the fruit lovers out there, scientists came up with a fruit salad tree. Yep, that's right, a tree that can grow different types of fruit at the same time. They were developed in Australia and can support up to 6 different types of fruit. There's a stone fruit variation that features peaches, plums, nectarines, apricots, and peachcots, and a citrus variation for those who prefer lemons, limes, mandarins, oranges, or even tangelos, pomelos, and grapefruits. You most likely avoid it because it can give you bad breath, but garlic is considered one of the most nutrient-dense foods out there. A single clove of garlic can contain 2% of your vitamin B6 for the whole day. Studies have shown that the chemical that gives garlic its distinctive flavor, called allicin, is good for your health. The only type of food that never spoils when stored properly is honey, or at least the only one we've discovered so far. That's because it contains a high amount of sugar and has a low moisture content. An enzyme created by bees also helps do the trick, as it can suppress any bacterial growth. Of course, if you store your honey the wrong way and expose it to additional moisture, it can go bad. But honey that is sealed and stored correctly technically has no expiration date. Now, if you're just starting out with your cooking skills, you'll be pleased to know mushrooms can't be overcooked. That's because they contain a polymer called chitin. This chemical allows them to remain tender even if you cook them from a few minutes to up to an hour. Hey, just add some butter and garlic. Nobody will ever know.
Are you ready for a spicy adventure? Let's talk cinnamon. It's a cool spice that most of us sprinkle on our oatmeal, toast, and apple pies. But did you know that some sneaky sellers out there are trying to sell us fake cinnamon? So, how can you spot the imposter? Well, the real deal is called Siouxland cinnamon, while the fake stuff is usually cassia cinnamon. One way to tell is by looking at the cinnamon sticks themselves. Real cinnamon is lighter in color and has a thinner, more delicate bark. The fake stuff, on the other hand, is darker and thicker. But don't worry, you don't have to be a cinnamon connoisseur to enjoy the real deal. Just make sure to read the label and look for Siouxland cinnamon. Your taste buds will thank you. Is white chocolate real or just an imposter? Well, it's time to settle this sweet debate once and for all. Some people say it's not even chocolate because it doesn't contain cocoa solids. But let's not judge a book by its cover or chocolate by its color, right? Technically, white chocolate is made from cocoa butter, milk, and sugar, which makes it a distant cousin to the darker cocoa solid packed chocolate varieties. But hey, if you ask me, family is family, even if they don't look or taste the same. And don't let anyone tell you white chocolate isn't delicious, because it absolutely is. Its smooth, creamy texture and sweet, buttery flavor make it a delightful treat on its own, or in baked goods like cookies and cakes. So, whether you consider white chocolate to be real chocolate or not, let's just agree that it's a yummy indulgence that we can all enjoy. Are French fries truly French? Hold on to your potatoes because it turns out that the origins of this snack are a bit more complicated than you might think. While it's true that French cuisine has given us some of the world's most delicious dishes, including escargot and coq au vin, the origins of French fries are actually traced back to Belgium. That's right, our crispy little friends were first cooked up in the land of waffles and chocolate. But here's where things get even more interesting. The reason they're called French fries is actually because of the way they're prepared, not because of their country of origin. You see, the term French in this context refers to the technique of slicing the potatoes into long, thin strips known as julienne cut. This technique was popularized in France in the 18th century, which is how the name French fries came to be. Want to add some egg rolls to this order? I mean, sure, they're delicious and all, but what's with all the fuss around this dish? First of all, let's talk about the egg part. Despite their name, egg rolls don't contain any eggs. Instead, the egg part comes from the thin, crepe-like wrapper that's made with eggs. It's like a little egg blanket that keeps all the tasty ingredients snuggled up inside. But what about the filling, you ask? Well, that's where things get interesting. Egg rolls can be filled with just about anything your heart desires. Veggies, meat, seafood, you name it. Some people even like to throw in a little cheese or rice for good measure. Now, here's where it gets a little weird. There's a bit of a debate in the egg roll world about whether they should be fried or baked. I say go for the fried version. There's just something about that crispy golden brown shell that can't be beaten. You might need to sit down for this one. Strawberries aren't berries, but bananas are. Mind blown yet? Here's the deal. A berry is defined as a fleshy fruit produced from a single type of cell. And guess what? Bananas fit the bill perfectly. They might not be as juicy as a watermelon or as tart as a raspberry, but they're berries. We might call them koala bears, but we couldn't be more wrong. Koalas aren't bears. These cute and cuddly critters are marsupials, which means they carry their little ones in a pouch. And while they may look a little bit like teddy bears, they aren't related to them. But hey, we can't blame people for thinking koalas are bears. After all, they do have that fluffy fur and round ears that make them look like they're ready for a hug. But koalas are their own unique species. They have all these amazing features that make them special, like their eucalyptus diet and their ability to sleep for up to 22 hours a day. Seriously, how do they do that? In case you didn't know the history of the Boston cream pie, you're in for a surprise. First off, let's just get one thing straight. Boston cream pie is not a pie. I know, it's in the name, but trust me on this one. It's a delicious cake filled with creamy custard and topped with a luscious chocolate glaze. Now, you might be thinking, why is it called a Boston cream pie then? Well, legend has it that it was invented by a chef at the Parker House Hotel in Boston way back in 1856. The chef, who apparently had a sense of humor, decided to call it a pie just to mess with people. And well, the name just stuck. But let's not forget about the real star of this dessert, the custard filling. Smooth, creamy, and just the right amount of sweetness. It's what makes this cake stand out. And that chocolate glaze on top, it's like the icing on the cake. Literally. Is a peanut a nut? It sounds like a silly question, but you'd be surprised how many people get confused about this. So let's clear it up once and for all. Peanuts are legumes. That's right, they're in the same family as beans and lentils. But don't worry, we won't hold it against them. After all, they're still delicious and nutritious snacks. But here's where it gets really interesting. Even though peanuts aren't technically nuts, they can still cause nut allergies. That's because they contain similar proteins to tree nuts, like almonds and walnuts. So if you have a nut allergy, you'll want to be careful around peanuts too. Have you ever found yourself using the term tinfoil to refer to aluminum foil? You're not alone. A lot of people use the two interchangeably. But why is that? Years ago, aluminum foil was made of tin. Back in the late 1800s, before aluminum was cheap and abundant, people used tinfoil to wrap up their food and keep it fresh. But when aluminum foil came along, it quickly became the more popular choice because it was cheaper and easier to produce. So how come we still call it tinfoil? Some think it's because aluminum foil was first marketed as tinfoil and the name just stuck with most people. Others think it's because the two materials have similar properties, so people started using the two terms interchangeably. But whatever the reason, one thing is for sure. Tinfoil just sounds cooler than aluminum foil. You might be surprised to know that your trusty Pyrex dishes aren't Pyrex at all. Now, don't get me wrong, the knockoff still gets the job done, but it's just not the same. Be sure to check the label on your glassware before you go around thinking you're buying good stuff. Here's a cheat sheet to help you figure out what kind of container you have in your cupboard. If you see Pyrex with a lowercase p on a dish, that means it's not safe for the oven or microwave. It's most likely made of soda lime glass. Stick to using these containers for food storage. On the other hand, if you see Pyrex in all caps, you're in luck. This cookware is made of a special type of glass and can be heated in the oven or microwave. Just don't pop it under the broiler. Things could get messy. And if you're taking your Pyrex from the fridge to the oven, be sure to let it sit at room temperature for 30 minutes to avoid any glass fractures.
Alright, you're going through the veggie bin in your fridge, and there it is. Among uneaten fruits and vegetables, lying there, rotting in the crisper, as a constant reminder of that healthy diet you promised yourself you'd start on Monday. That asparagus you got at the grocery store a week ago. Yeah. Okay, here's some motivation. Asparagus is packed with these wonderful things called antioxidants. They help lower the harmful effects of, basically, anything, including stress. And if you're forever struggling to decrease the number on the scale, asparagus could be just what you need. It's about 94% water and has as few as 32 calories in a 1-cup serving. That, and the body digests asparagus slowly. So, after eating just a handful, you'll keep feeling full in between meals. That means no more reaching for that midday snack of chips and cookies. Bingo! Hey, if you're like me and tired of getting seasonal flu and colds, then crunch on some carrots. They're loaded with vitamins A and C, which are must-haves for your immune system. Now, don't count on tossing your glasses after getting perfect vision with your new carrot diet. That's a myth. They won't improve your eyesight, but the antioxidants in them do protect your eyes from the types of light that can damage them. Oh yeah, and you might start turning orange if you eat more than 10 carrots a day for a few weeks. If you're a fan of Willy Wonka, now you can flash an Oompa Loompa vibe. If pasta is your guilty pleasure, well, it's not all that bad. First, it doesn't have much fat in it. Plus, it keeps you full for longer. And we already know the perks of that. Just be sure to check if your sauce is good. Opt for mayonnaise-free versions, and make sure your pasta is whole grain. Plenty more junk foods you can reach for without feeling guilty. Popcorn is packed with fiber, which, yet again, keeps you full and is great for your gut. I'm talking digestion. Though your favorite movie snack could also help you lose that spare tire too. It's surprisingly low in calories. Well, before you put the butter on it. Even more shocking, popcorn is good for stress. Yes, the thing that makes us all want to tear our hair out wreaks havoc on the body even at the cellular level. Antioxidants help repair that damage. And here's a tip to keep it healthy. Don't go too far with salt and butter. It's better to have it a bit bland. Now, you'll really like this. M&Ms may not be the healthiest sweets, but their blue dye is supposedly kind of magical. Some researchers claim this blue coloring provides a better chance of recovery after spinal injuries. Or you can just skip the spinal injuries if you prefer. How about a peanut butter sandwich? Good news! A standard 2 tablespoons serving of peanut butter has just 3 grams of saturated fat. That's the bad one that blocks blood vessels. And about 12 grams of unsaturated fat. The good kind your body needs. Olive oil, for example, has the same ratio. To make it even healthier, go for unsalted peanut butter and put it on whole grain bread. Regular butter is heavy in bad fats, but it can also help your body better absorb important vitamins like A, D, E, and K. A tip if you're worried about gaining a few extra pounds, opt for whipped butter. It has fewer calories. That's because it's full of air. Any ketchup is loaded with most of the good things any regular tomato has. Your heart likes it, and it can help fight stress. Yes, those magical antioxidants yet again. Try to opt for organic ketchups if you can. They're made from real healthy tomatoes with richer nutrients. At least that's what a recent study from Spain found. And as one of the world's leading tomato producers, they probably know what they're talking about. Sweet potatoes don't have many calories despite their sweetness, but they're rich in a lot of good things for you, like iron, copper, and potassium. It's also full of vitamin B6. That helps your body produce the happiness hormone serotonin. Plus, you'll get 120% of your daily recommended amount for vitamin A. You know, the thing your immune system craves. It's also great for moisturizing your skin and improving complexion. Bacteria and food usually aren't a good mix. Yeah, blame it for all those rotten vegetables in your fridge. But in sauerkraut, they're the perfect match. In fact, people do need bacteria for healthy digestion, but they need the right kind. Sauerkraut helps keep bad bacteria out of your gut, which makes your digestive system work even better. If you're having rice, opt for the brown kind. While white rice is processed, the husk is removed and the rice is polished. The problem is, up to 80% of the B vitamins get unintentionally eliminated too. Other vitamins get completely taken out. Plus, brown rice has more fiber, keeping you feeling nice and full between meals. Got some motion sickness or feeling nauseous? Grab a serving of ginger. And here's a strange one. Ginger helps get rid of body odor. First, the root heats you up and makes you sweat. Nasty toxins in the body make their way out through the sweat, and any unpleasant odors disappear. Ginger is also a natural antibiotic and antioxidant. Take a break from regular water every now and then with coconut water. You still get the hydration you need, plus some added benefits. It's a great source of essential minerals, especially for your body's nervous and muscular systems. Many experts even recommend it as a much better alternative to sugary sports drinks. Sardines are packed with nutrients and even improve blood flow. They have a lot of calcium, tons of protein, yet few calories. Protein is a must for maintaining muscle mass and boosting muscle growth. If you're looking to bulk up and stay that way, there you go, sardines. Another tiny fish that proves size doesn't matter is the anchovy. They too are loaded with protein, calcium, and omega-3 fatty acids, just like any big fish. Hey, order some anchovy pizza next time. If you're lactose intolerant but want to benefit from dairy products, try some kefir. This fermented milk is full of bacteria. Don't be scared, it's the good kind that may help eliminate or reduce lactose intolerance problems. Try replacing your daily black tea or coffee with some rooibos for a couple weeks. It's a plant used to make red tea, and several studies have linked it with good heart and kidney health. It's a great alternative if you have a bad reaction to caffeine. Red tea doesn't have any. A nice bonus? It has 0 calories, so if you're on a diet, give it a try. If you still avoid dark poultry meat, you may want to reconsider. Sure, light meat is a healthy choice, no argument here. But the fat in the darker parts contains a hormone that stimulates the digestion of fat and protein. Meat from the leg is also packed with taurine, which is essential for good metabolism and digestion. Oats are packed with a whole laundry list of vitamins, that's a given. But they're a must for weight loss. Full of fiber that keeps you energized and full, they also contain more protein and good fats than other grains. Bottom line? Oatmeal is one of the healthiest breakfasts you can have, and it's quick and easy to make. Even though coconut oil contains some bad saturated fat, it's still good for your weight and energy levels. Plus, these are fats that can be easily digested. Coconut oil also helps the body burn fat and provides the brain with quick energy, not to mention the hair and skin benefits of it. Rub some on your face or all down your hair from root to tip. It's very moisturizing. There's one yummy way to lose weight if you're a fan of spicy food. Use hot sauces. They add the flavor you love and help cut down your appetite. It's all because of the capsaicin they contain. It's usually in chili peppers. This compound lowers the hunger hormone ghrelin in your body while raising the level of the hormone that's in charge of suppressing your appetite. Woo, double whammy. Spices such as cumin and turmeric are healthier than you might have thought. Turmeric has potent antiviral properties and acts as an anti-inflammatory agent. Cumin is also good at combating bad bacteria, and it's super heart healthy. And now, I'm hungry. Finish clearing out your crisper, and I'm off to lunch. Bye-bye!
Picture this. It's a cloudy, misty morning in the middle of winter. Tom wakes up, a bit nervous for the day ahead. He's leaving on a long journey through uncharted waters. His captain says they will try to leave England and make it all the way to the Americas. He's ready and packed to leave his house when his wife reminds him to take the biscuits he had spent the night preparing. Let's zoom in on these biscuits right here. They look a bit strange, don't they? These are called ship's biscuits, and they were literally the biscuits that sailors ate during long voyages at sea. A ship's biscuit could go years without going bad. I know that sounds impossible, but the secret is in the ingredients and baking methods. When sailors departed, they didn't know how long they would go without setting foot on land again, so they needed to be ready, food-wise. otherwise they could perish from extreme hunger. So bakers came up with this simple biscuit. It's mostly made out of 3 ingredients: salt, flour, and a bit of water. The idea is that the dough stayed as stiff as it could. Then, bakers would put them in the oven for hours, at very low temperatures. The purpose of this slow baking was to take off all the moisture in the biscuits. Even if you're not an experienced sailor, you might suspect that moisture is the enemy of food preservation. It makes stuff get moldy and attracts insects and other animals. Plus, a ship is already an extremely moist environment. So the biscuits had to go on the countercurrent of all of that. A ship's biscuit can go 6, 7, 8 years without going bad. The little holes you see on them help to get the moisture out during the cooking process. A sailor like Tom, medium-sized, would get a portion of 6 to 8 ship's biscuits per day. They were extremely nutritious and satiated a person's hunger. Now, this was a type of survival food. It wasn't meant to be super pleasurable, yummy, or even give you all the nutrients you needed. Just the basics. Now, do you have any idea what life was like in the 18th century? If you think about a city like New York, there were only about 18,000 people living there. For comparison, today the city hosts more than 8 million people. Back then, if someone had to travel from New York to Boston, there wouldn't be any of the convenience stores there were along the way. I mean, there weren't even roads as we know them now. So, people needed to make food provisions. And this is where portable soup came in handy. If you imagined a boiling pot of meat and veggies, I'm sorry to inform you, you are wrong. Portable soup is hard and condensed. It looks like this. Portable soup is a type of solidified broth, a very, very condensed substance made essentially of meat. Think about it. It's convenient, it's light, it doesn't take up much space, but it's extremely hard to make. The best meat to make portable soup is one with a lot of collagen, like beef shank. And the secret is slow cooking. You can't lose sight of it though, because if it boils up, you ruin the whole thing. While cooking the meat, it will release its taste in the water in the pot, and after a few hours, it's safe to take the beef out. The remaining water will be rich in nutrients and fats, and once you reduce that down for about 18 to 24 hours, you'll get a gelatine-like nutritional substance. Once this cools down, it turns into a tablet of sorts. It's pretty amazing to witness the entire transformation process, but hey, this dark tablet is really satiable. And to eat it, you just needed to find some hot water and put the meat tablet inside of it. It would release all the condensed nutrients in it, giving you a warm, hearty meal. Here's a trick question for you. Do you know why hamburgers are called hamburgers if they are not made out of ham? Apparently, it has to do with the city they were first invented in, the city of Hamburg in Germany. But it wasn't what we are used to today. I mean, they didn't even use ketchup. Well, at least not the tomato ketchup we use now. But did you know that other types of ketchup have existed throughout history? As weird as it may sound, back in the 18th century, people ate mushroom ketchup. For your information, if you look up ketchup in some dictionaries, it is by definition a sauce made out of mushrooms. It has nothing to do with tomatoes. I wonder where people got that idea from. Anyways, to make it you can use any type of mushrooms. Even shiitake if you're feeling fancy. The idea is to smash them, cook them, and add a bunch of spices to the mix. I'm talking clove, nutmeg, ginger, pepper, and whatever else your palate wishes for. And in case you're wondering what our ancestors ate it with, I have one word for you: meat. They would pour mushroom ketchup over a nice piece of steak, for example. Like a gravy sauce, or something like it. Now, if this just left your mouth full of water, I have good news. You can still find mushroom ketchup in Great Britain. It's just North America that kind of forgot it. Neat, huh? And what did people eat back in the day when they were feeling unwell? Today, we have a concept of food I particularly love: comfort food, which is something to eat when you are feeling down and sad. But then, on the days you're feeling sick, what do you eat? I immediately think of a warm soup or something nutritious and light. Our forefathers drank something called posset. Now, posset could be described as an eggnog with some sweets added into it. Its recipe can be traced down to as early as the 15th century. The drink was considered such a reliable remedy that Shakespeare even used it as a poison in Macbeth. Here's another quick pop quiz for you. Why do we say the proof is in the pudding? This famous expression simply means that you'll only know the true value of something once you experience it for yourself. The expression started to be used back in the 1600s, but there's an important thing to note here. In Britain, pudding is not the sweet dessert known by many in America. Rather, it's a savory dish, much like a pie. I guess it's safe to say that the British are good at turning almost anything into pie. From apple pie to pumpkin pie, chicken pot pie, and so on. Now, in the 18th century, they had something called beefsteak pie. This was an incredibly popular dish back then, but somewhere along the way we lost the habit of making it. Sure, you can find steak and kidney pudding today, but it's got all sorts of stuff in it, such as potatoes, carrots, and thick gravy. Up until the 19th century, people ate the stripped-down version of this dish, which was basically made out of richly flavored meat. They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. If you're in the US, you might eat some avocado on toast or a rich bowl of cereal. If you're in Vietnam, you might enjoy a warm bowl of broth soup or rice. But if you were eating breakfast in 18th century England, or even the United States, you would get something like this. This is the old school version of what we know as bacon and eggs. Except that back then, it was called collops and eggs. According to the traditional Hannah Glass recipe, straight from the most famous cookbooks of back then, the egg wasn't fried or boiled, it was poached, and the bacon was probably not as processed as we eat them today. A little toast was added on the side, and there you had it. The perfect start for a long day.
Sandwich bread is not entirely real bread. Water can boil and freeze at the same time. Bananas are berries that grow in grass. Believe these or not, but let me ask you, did you know water can be wetter than it is in nature? Find out in this video. Bubblegum is usually pink because the first commercial gum, made in 1928, was like that. Pink simply was the only color of the food dye available at the factory. The first chewing gum ever, though, probably appeared about 9,000 years back. People chewed birch bark tar back then for its medicinal properties, for example, to fight fever. In fact, at different periods, people used to chew on lots of stuff. For instance, the ancient Mayans made gum out of chicle, a substance made from the sapodilla tree sap. They used it to fight hunger and quench thirst. And in North America, people chewed spruce tree resin, a habit which European settlers later picked up and turned into a commercial thing in the 1840s. You can't name a folder CON on any version of Windows. This also applies to some other letter combinations, such as PRN, AUX, NUL, and others. It has to do with the operating system itself. It creates folders to store data in them. And if you create one of your own using one of these names, it will confuse the system. If you shuffle a deck of cards to get every possible combination, you'll spend billions upon billions upon billions of years just to get a third of the way there. Think about it. There are 52 cards in a regular deck. And the possible number of combinations without repeating is 8 times 10 raised to the power of 67. Even if you shuffled the cards 100 times per second without repeating combinations, it will take you several hundreds of trillions of the times the universe has existed so far. Folding a simple sheet of paper 103 times will get you a stack 93 billion light years thick, which is more than the size of the observable universe. But if you decide to check this on your own, you won't be able to fold it more than 12 times. And that would require a really big sheet of paper too, as in almost a mile long. With a regular printing paper sheet, it would be even less, 7 times. In many supermarkets, you'll see 2 different bread sections, bread and bakery, and they do have different types of bread in them. The lighter, square, and most often cut in advance variety is called white pan bread, or sandwich bread, while the other is, well, just bread. The difference is that sandwich bread is made specifically to have stuff spread on it. It has a tougher texture, which allows the slice to not fall apart and go all crumbly when you put, say, peanut butter on it. It's also soft enough, letting you bite into your sandwich and not squeeze the contents out of the sides, turning your meal into a mighty mess. Finally, white pan bread lasts longer than regular bread because of the additives in it. They preserve the bread's texture for a week or so in your home, allowing you to enjoy your PB&Js for longer, while the traditional bread variety would likely go stale the next day. There's a state at which water can both be boiling and freezing. It's called a triple point, and it occurs when all three states of a substance, liquid, solid, and vapor, exist at all the same time without messing with each other. For water, the triple point happens just a tiny bit over the freezing temperature and at an atmospheric pressure of 0.006 atmospheres. The blue bird you see on the Twitter logo has an official name. It's Larry the Bird. And the creator of the social network named it after the former NBA basketball player Larry Bird from the Boston Celtics. If you've decided to save a few bucks by charging your smartphone less often, let me disappoint you. To charge a cell phone, you use teeny amounts of electricity. That's why the maximum amount of money you can save within a year is less than $1. Jeep is actually an abbreviation. Originally, it was called a GP, or a general purpose vehicle. It was only much later that it became a brand we know today. Bananas have a curved shape because they turn towards the sun. They're also not trees, but grass, by the way. The bunches grow downwards. But the fruit itself wants to get towards the sun, so it curves a bit up while it grows. Spandex, a fiber used for making sports clothing, got its name as an anagram of the word expands. If you were to watch every video on YouTube, you'd have to spend 1,000 years on that. And then about 1,000 times more because of all the new videos that would appear by then. You probably know that tomatoes are technically berries. Well, bananas, peppers, watermelons, and eggplants are too. There's a little open jar symbol on every cosmetics item packaging. It's called PAO, period after opening, and it tells you how long you can safely use the product after opening it. The jar is usually accompanied by a number with the letter M, which stands for months. Just make sure you remember exactly when you open the package so that you'll know when 3, 6, 9, or however many months indicated have passed. A phone jack often has several rings on it, each representing different components. One ring is for mono sound, 2 are for stereo, and the third one means your earphones have a microphone function built in. To know if an egg you boiled is fully cooked, just spin it on the countertop. If the egg spins steadily without immediately falling over, it's done. Instead of using good old water, firefighters extinguish fires with wet water. They add special wetting agents to it, chemicals that reduce the surface tension that regular water has. It helps the substance to soak into objects and spread everywhere much more easily. Your shower curtain sometimes gets a bit too clingy when you get into the shower trying to get clean. According to the shower curtain effect, the hot water lowers the air pressure behind the curtain. The higher, denser pressure outside the shower pushes the curtain in, making you feel like your shower curtain is out to get you. If you take a closer look at the regular garbage bag, you'll probably notice that the seam is inside out. In fact, you're not supposed to shake up the bag to open it. You gotta place the bag over a garbage can like a hat, and then just push the middle of the bag down into the can. This way, the seam will end up where it should be, inside. If you ever had problems with popping chocolates from the box, look at those little holes around them. They're there to help you. If you push a hole right next to the candy, it'll jump out easily. An extra hole at the upper part of the sink has multiple hidden functions. First, in case someone forgets to close the faucet, the water won't overflow and the bathroom won't get flooded. Second, thanks to that hole, the water drains faster, as it gives an escape for the air, helping the water flow down. Many cups and mugs have little grooves on the bottom on purpose. They're designed for washing machines. The grooves let the water flow and not spill all over your feet when you take the cup out. Also, those grooves let the air flow so the cup doesn't crack even if the tea is scalding. Take a closer look at that metal plate at the front of your stapler, known as the anvil. Turn the stapler upside down and rotate the anvil, reversing it. you're basically changing the stapler setting to temporary. In this mode, you can staple the sheets without too much vigor, so they can be easily detached from each other later.
It all started in early 20th century France. They introduced the idea of, some fancy French word, basically eating small amounts of beautifully served food, 5, 10, 15, up to 20 courses. In one meal, you could try soups, appetizers, pastries, pastas, risottos, all that good stuff. When you go to a restaurant to try a new dish, it stops tasting life-changing after about the 10th mouthful. When you're only given a few bites worth, you somehow appreciate the taste more. Luxury restaurants always try to be as different as they can from cheaper places. They've got elegant interiors, expensive cutlery, and small portions, the opposite of what you get at your regular diner. It makes the meal more unusual. That's why it's more memorable. Truffles, caviar, all those fancy schmancy ingredients cost a lot, and deep down, you know that. So when you see them bring a tiny plate with a tiny serving, your brain's happy. It's logical somehow. How would you feel if you ordered a cheap plate of something fancy and it was huge? You'd be weirded out, wondering if the quality was really low or something. Luxury restaurants get their ingredients from various places. It's not really a one-stop shop thing. That adds up fast. A bigger portion would be so expensive even for the wealthiest customers. Most fancy restaurants have at least 3 to 6 course meals. At some, you might get up to 30. You wouldn't be able to try them all if they were regular size. And if they keep the portion sizes down, you'll have room for dessert and a fancy coffee, which means extra money for the restaurant. It's all designed to give you the limited edition vibe. You're always more likely to appreciate something that's rare and exclusive. A mountain of pasta is something you can cook at home any old time. Some strands of multicolored pasta spread across a plate of exotic veggies? That's got food selfie written all over it. Now, gourmet chefs don't just cook. They create edible works of art. And it's a lot easier to make a masterpiece with fewer things on the plate. The more you slap on there, the more it'll look like that meal you cook when you're just trying to empty out your fridge. And for the customer, it's not easy to look elegant when you're trying to shove a huge burger in your mouth. When you're eating your tiny portion at a fancy table wearing nice clothes, you can't not look elegant. Some restaurants are switching it up, offering regular and smaller size meal options. It's perfect if you can't eat that much, are dieting, or want to save some money. But it's not like the smaller portions are going to be fancier, they'll just be smaller. Most restaurants have dim lighting and cozy, secluded seating areas to make you feel more comfortable and relaxed, and stay longer, and order more. You'll feel less guilty about ordering a ton of expensive food when you feel invisible in the dark. Smells can affect your meal choices. Vanilla and cinnamon make you crave dessert. The smell of bacon might make you order a bigger breakfast. Lavender helps you relax, slow down, and eat and spend more. Fancy restaurants use incense and nice-smelling oils to try to make you order more. At cheaper restaurants, it's all different. When you sit by the window and see people in sunlight, you're more likely to feel conscious of your choices and order something healthy and sensible like vegetables, wraps, that sort of thing. And you're more likely to order a full meal because you think someone might judge you or something. They put up TVs everywhere to distract you. That way, you're more likely to agree to whatever the waiter's offering you. Sitting at a high-top bar table makes you more alert since you can't lean back and relax. You're more likely to order, eat, and leave. Then they can fill the table with someone else. Where can you always find fast food? At the mall and at any rest stop. They're hoping you just impulse buy something, even when you're not hungry. Just looking at food or people eating can make you crave that burger. And restaurants pay big bucks to get help designing their menus. They use something called power positioning. It helps you pick something even if you didn't know you wanted it. Whatever's on the top right of the front page, that's what they want you to order. You'll always see the most expensive ingredients mentioned in the dish description, even if it only has one tiny drop of it. You'll want to order it for that luxury vibe. Some gourmet restaurants really do make their specials out of the freshest ingredients, the one they just got in that morning. Most specials, though, They're made from stuff that's about to expire. That way they don't waste as much food. And watch out! The specials at fancy restaurants might cost more than your new iPhone. Even the most luxurious places can't always cook everything from scratch. Frozen veggies zapped in the microwave, vacuum-packed soups they dump in hot water. They might even use leftover shredded veggies from the salad bar to make tomorrow's soup of the day. When the greeter at the front door tells you there's a 20-minute wait, they just made it up. Can they see into the future? How do they know exactly how long it's going to take for that couple at the corner table to finish their pasta and leave? That specific wait time just makes you feel more relaxed. Plus, it makes it look like the restaurant's really well managed. The restaurant manager knows you're more likely to order a $20 pizza if it's right below a $45 steak. You might also fall for the special $3 off dessert, even if it's still $15. It's called the anchoring effect. Your brain gets stuck on the $3 off bit and ignores the actual price. When a friendly waiter invites you to take another look at the menu, it's impossible to say no. You naturally want to please others. The waiters know which items to push, and they'll describe them to you in the most beautiful way or recommend them as their personal favorites. Just try it. Ask them to recommend you a dessert. I bet you anything it'll be the most expensive one. The music you hear at restaurants affects the taste of food. You're more likely to rate your pasta or pizza as authentic if they're pumping out some Italian opera jams. Chips taste fresher when they crunch super loud, and oysters feel saltier when there's some sort of Caribbean music going on. Waiters always want to start you off with a drink before you even open the menu to catch you off guard. And if one person orders a pricey drink, chances are everyone else will too. Menus that don't use dollar signs make you feel better and more relaxed about spending money. And they don't use cents either. The less numbers you see, the more you're going to be willing to pay. You're more likely to order a meal that has a long, juicy name like Seasoned Wood-Fire Grilled Fish Fillet with our head chef's signature sauce and Uncle John's secret recipe fried potatoes. I'm in. Hey. Sorry, guys. That sounds better than grilled fish with potatoes. The first one sounds expensive and like it's a secret family recipe. Restaurants always like to make meals sound more authentic. That's why they're always loaded with foreign words, makes it seem extra fancy. Restaurants get busy at lunch, at least that's the plan. To stop you from noticing that your meal's taking forever, they slow everything else down too. They'll keep you waiting for a table, then seat you at an empty table, then put out the dishes and cutlery, then bring you the menu, then, well, you get the picture. Sorry to burst your bubble, but you aren't always the first customer to get that bread basket. What's left from the previous guest, you might be eating that right now. When waiters bring you free snacks, they're trying to make you thirsty. All those chips and crackers are packed with sodium. When you eat too much of it, your body sends a signal to your kidneys that it's time to flush out the system. Before you know it, you're ordering a bunch of extra drinks.
The national Jamaican fruit, ackee, has a truly unique taste. It's mild and buttery, and people who tried it say it tastes just like scrambled eggs. It's safe to eat ackee only as long as it's fully ripe. So the import of raw ackees was banned in the US almost 50 years ago. The only edible part is the white creamy flesh itself. The pink flesh looks mouthwatering, but don't fall for it, it's highly toxic. Same with the black seeds. Soursop is one more fruit banned from the US because of its toxins. It's also referred to as guanabana and can release toxic substances, leading to some very unpleasant effects if not ripe. Soursop fans, don't be sad. Chances are, you might find some frozen pulp in supermarkets. Another thing that should be 100% ripe to be safe is elderberry. Raw elderberry is rich in vitamin C, which is good for you, and cyanide, which is not that good. These berries are quite popular though. You can find them in pies, syrups, teas, jams, you name it. Fully ripe and cooked berries aren't dangerous. And nope, it's not banned. Cyanide doesn't seem that serious when it comes to food with tetrodotoxin, which is 1,200 times stronger. Pufferfish is a Japanese delicacy, and it's loaded with the substance. No person can eat this fish without consequences, but Japanese chefs have mastered their skills to perfection. To make it edible, they simply remove the poisonous parts. This delicacy is called fugu and costs about $200 per portion. You could buy a whole bunch of totally safe salmon instead. It's almost completely banned in the US. There are only a few authorized places that sell it, but you probably don't feel like having such a gastronomic adventure either way. Kasu marzu literally means rotten cheese. Sorry, you can't try a bite of it in the US, so in case you can't resist the temptation, just head to the island of Sardinia, Italy. In fact, it's just sheep milk cheese with a pinch of, let's say, magic. Special flies leave their eggs right inside that cheese, and they stay there for 40 days. At the moment it's ready for consumption, this cheesy delicacy has some live maggots taking care of decomposing it. Thanks to them, the cheese has that distinctive texture and spicy flavor. It's banned in the US for sanitary reasons. Unlike soft and creamy kasu marzu, the Himalayan cheese chirpy is famous for being the world's hardest. Just like any regular product of this type, it's made from milk. What makes it different is that it stays fresh for up to 20 years. The milk is quite special too. The cows, which are actually a cross between cows and yaks, eat a variety of mountain herbs. This milk has a unique flavor thanks to those herbs. But be careful with your teeth nibbling on that hard as stone cheese. In Singapore, you'll never have cavities because of chewing gum. And nope, it's not because they take care of your teeth. The thing is, it's completely illegal there. This place is known for its cleanliness, and the country spent a fortune cleaning all the spots and banning chewing gum. It was prohibited back in 1992, and vendors had to stop the sales immediately to avoid super high fines. Walking down the supermarket aisles while traveling to different destinations, you may spot that there's no raw milk in stock. It's prohibited in many US states and other countries, including Canada, Norway, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, and Scotland, for sanitary reasons. While raw milk is a no-go for Scotland, haggis is completely fine there. Still, it's banned in the US. If you live in the States and you're under 45, chances are you've never tried haggis, since it was prohibited almost half a century ago. This Scottish pudding is made of a full range of sheep's inner parts, mixed with some oatmeal and spiced up with a bunch of minced onions. Oh, and don't forget suet and some broth. The texture is crumbly and coarse, and no surprise, the dish is quite spicy. It's usually served with mashed potatoes or mashed turnip. Cassava is a poisonous tropical root with two types. The sweet variation does contain some cyanide, but it's enough to cook it to reduce the toxic content to a non-toxic level. To get rid of all the toxins in bitter cassava, it's necessary to grate the root, then soak it, and finally cook properly to make it edible. This root is very starchy, and its flavor is really subtle. Cassava can be used just like potatoes, mashed, boiled, or fried.
What you think? How about some haggis with mashed cassava instead of potatoes on the side?
By the way, harmless potatoes aren't that safe either. It all depends on whether it's ripe or not. So-called green potatoes are full of toxins, and potato sprouts are also quite unsafe. Same with green almonds and cashews, which are full of cyanide if not ripe enough. Luckily, the nuts we get at the supermarket are well processed, which means they're completely safe. Yellow plums, or Mirabelle plums, are banned in all the 50 states of America. These fruits are completely fine, and nothing bad happens if you eat them. But you can only enjoy these plums in Lorraine, France. The importation law is a bit bizarre, and this fruit is of protected origin. If sea bass is the kind of dish you just can't live without, then the UK isn't your destination. This fish has been recently banned there because of declines in the sea bass population. The same goes with beluga caviar in the US. One of the world's most expensive foods can't be found in America because of new regulations protecting the fish. Hey, feel like a burger with freshly cooked meat, the softest bun, and loads of ketchup? Go and grab it. Unless you're a French school student, there's a law in France regulating the use of ketchup in cafeterias for students. and they're only allowed to have it with, you guessed it, French fries. Greenland shark bodies get rid of all the waste they produce, filtering it through their flesh and skin, so no wonder their flesh is toxic. Sounds like a fair reason not to eat them, but not in Iceland. Hakarl, which is processed shark meat, is first hung to dry for 3 to 5 months. In the end, you get something like ammonia-smelling fermented fish with the jelly texture that reminds you of wet bread. Some things get better with age, unless it's food. But there's one cafe in Bangkok where they've been cooking the same beef and noodle soup for 45 years. This potion-like soup has been simmering for over 4 decades. The broth has never been thrown away, and it's always kept overnight for the next day's servings. One of the secrets of the unique flavor is the massive grease rim around the pan that formed because they never washed it. Okay, now I've got the perfect excuse to do the same thing. What? The food just tastes better this way. In Cambodia, you can try a crunchy, crispy snack that tastes somewhat like a crab. It's deep fried and a bit seasoned. The main ingredient is a tarantula. This doesn't quite sound like a lunch. Okay, well, you wouldn't have guessed it if I hadn't told you. This soup that sounds like a tongue twister is definitely scrumptious. The flavor is sharp, yet delicate, and it tastes just like shrimp. Well, this traditional Laotian dish sounds really cool, until you realize it's made of ant eggs. To give it a bit of sourness, they also tend to add a few tiny ants. In Mexico, you don't throw away corn kernels that have turned black because they're rotten. You keep them as a culinary specialty called huitlacoche. Fungus all over the kernel give that earthy, woody smell. Yum, yum. Some dishes just need decoration, especially cakes and pies. In England, there's a pie called stargazy. The name speaks for itself. The sardines, accompanied by potatoes and eggs, peek out of the pie's crust and stare at the skies. And it looks a bit creepy. Sometimes it's the tails that point at the skies, though. Tea mushroom is another weird thing that they drink in Eastern Europe, together with acid milk-based drinks. It's basically some fermented black or green tea. It's made by adding a whole culture of bacteria. They're not consumed, they just ferment the drink. To sweeten tea, the sugar acts like yeast. Add juice, spice, or whatever you want to taste. Enjoy! Or at least try to. Tuna eyeballs are quite a popular delicacy in China and Japan. They need to be boiled before eating, and some seasoning is required too. If you nail it, you'll have a delicacy that tastes like squid. And it costs less than $1. I bet you're eyeing that one.
It's the first day of the apocalypse. The internet collapsed, logistics chains broke down. Outside your house, the world is living and breathing chaos. You need to think fast. You gotta make sure your provisions will last until who knows. First off, make sure to stockpile your share of pemmican. It's like a beef jerky with a lot of extra nutritional value. Pemmican is an invention of the indigenous people of North America. They depended on pemmican during harsh winters or when resources were scarce. It lasts long and it's easy to carry, the essence of survival food. It doesn't look the yummiest, but it can last up to 5 years if stored properly. This pemmican stuff is kind of perfect for the apocalypse, since it will give you a highly nutritional meal. A 2.2-ounce bar will give you around 300 calories, but here you get 3 for the serving of 1. Dried meat, berries, and even sugar. And you won't have to eat a lot to feel satiated, since it gives your body an array of nutrients, from proteins to carbohydrates. I know you'll miss them, but don't grab those chocolate chip cookies you love. You need an alternative called ship's biscuits, but you can't find them in the supermarket. You gotta bake them yourself. These were literally the cookies that sailors ate during long voyages at sea. A ship's biscuit can go a lifetime without going bad. There are records of biscuits that lasted over 80 years. The deal is that when sailors went to sea, they didn't know exactly when they would set foot on land again. So they needed to be ready food-wise, or else they could, starve. Bakers came up with this simple recipe. These cookies are mostly made out of salt, flour, and a bit of water. But the secret here is that the slow baking method takes all the moisture out of it. The little holes on top help to get the moisture out during the cooking process. A medium-sized person can survive on 8 chips biscuits a day. But there was a downside. These cookies were so dry that one might break their teeth while eating them. And extra attention is advised since there could be bugs hidden in the holes on top. So, before munching on those cookies, make sure to shake the pests out of them. Ever heard of a soup you can carry around? Well, portable soup is an ancient secret that needs to make this list. Portable soup is hard and condensed. It's a type of solidified broth, like a bouillon, made essentially of meat. You need to cook it slowly, with any type of meat high on collagen. While cooking the meat, it will release its taste in the water in the pot. After about 18 to 24 hours of reduction, you'll get a gelatin-like nutritional substance. When this cools down, it turns into a plaque that you can cut down into smaller tablets. To eat it, you just need to find some hot water and put the meat tablet inside of it. It would release all the condensed nutrients in it, giving you a warm, hearty, and highly nutritional meal. If you attempt to risk your life and go outside to buy provisions, don't forget white rice. This variety of rice can maintain its nutrient content and flavor for up to 30 years. White rice is better than other varieties, such as brown rice, because of their natural oils. Now, let's say it's been a year into the apocalypse. You've gotten used to your new lifestyle at this point. You go outside to hunt for some fresh meat, but you run into a bear. But since your nutrition is up to date, you have all the energy you need to escape it, and you can thank kamut for that. This ancient grain contains up to 40% more protein than modern wheat, and it's richer in zinc, magnesium, selenium, and healthy fatty acids. It's not called high-energy grain for a random reason. It's easy to digest and provides more energy than regular wheat. Quick thought here. While we're speaking about survival food, we're not just thinking about things to fill your stomach. We need to think in nutritional terms as well as psychological ones, which means Jell-O. It may sound superficial, but don't underestimate the need for comfort food during the end of the world. Since it's made out of an industrialized powder, it lasts for a pretty long time. Plus, it's a source of collagen. This will help your bones to remain sturdy. Make sure your pantry has salt and sugar. Salt has been used since humans discovered it helps to preserve the shelf life of meat and stuff. That's why Egyptians used it in their mummification processes, so it would slow down the decaying process. Now, sugar can be stored for an indefinite period of time. Make sure to get a top-quality refined sugar, though, and store it somewhere without any type of strong smell, since it absorbs the scents around it. Both sugar and salt keep bacteria and mold from growing. Now keep in mind, moisture is one of your number one enemies in the apocalypse, even worse than zombies perhaps, simply because moisture allows for bacteria and mold to prosper, and these guys end up eating all your food. 2 years into this whole chaos, you figured out your way around food. When it all started, you bought a bunch of fresh veggies and dehydrated them. By dehydrating food, you still get all the nutrients, but they last for much longer. Plus, they reduce in size quite significantly, which makes storing them much easier. You didn't forget about peanut butter, of course. Peanut butter is highly caloric, plus they are your best treat at this point. Now I know what you're thinking, I can go without candies, but how will I survive without milk? Well, you don't have to. Instead of regular milk, make sure you get tons of powdered milk. You can even vary a bit and buy powdered coconut or even almond milk. To prepare them, you just need to mix it with a bit of water. And of course, coffee is a big survival food. It lasts a long time, although it won't bring you much nutrition. Coffee does have its share of antioxidants, which will help with a longer life. Plus, it helps with your brain's health, preventing dementia. You should get your share of canned food, beans, vegetables, even fish. Make sure you get some black beans, as they're high in iron. You need to have a sturdy immune system, since there won't be many doctors around, or they've turned into zombies. Canned pink salmon is a must-have in your apocalypse pantry. It's got a bunch of those omega-3 fatty acids, which will help with your brain and your heart health. It can last up to 6 years if stored correctly. And you gotta think about oats here. Oats are one of the world's healthiest foods. A bowl of oatmeal for breakfast can help you feel full longer, which is a great ally when food is being rationed. Rolled oats are simple to make and can be eaten without cooking, simply by letting them sit in water overnight. Now, corn. Flint corn is one of the best for long-term storage. It makes a pretty good cornmeal. You can even grind it and make a mean tortilla, in case you start to miss those Mexican night outs. It's best to store it whole and grind it only when you cook it, for durability, of course. Now, unfortunately, popcorn has more moisture than other varieties of corn and is not the best candidate for long-term storage. Let's just say popcorn doesn't make it into the apocalypse. Which leads us to another point. None of this will work if you don't know how to store your survival food. You need to create a storage location that is cool, dark, and dry. This can extend the shelf life of your food for up to 30 years. For the dehydrated stuff, you need to store it in airtight containers. Air is kind of a bad guy here, since it helps to oxidize a bunch of stuff. Most bacteria in our food need air in order to thrive, so if we cut out the air, this means more food for us. That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like.